Hey, yo, everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video, and today we're going to be doing another edition of what I am thinking. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel or know nothing about this video series, basically it is exactly how it sounds. I sit down and I talk about what I am thinking. It could be about anything. It could be about politics. It can be about light bulbs. It can be about picture frames. It could be about tape dispensers. It could be about a television show. It doesn't really much matter. Chances are, though, it's going to be about something related to my channel, like video games, comic books, movies, wrestling, so on and so forth. So, what am I talking about today? Well, you're just going to have to wait one moment before I get into that. I want to show something off to you guys. My friend, who is currently unemployed, does beadwork. And basically, what he does is he takes pictures, mostly video game sprites, but he can do other things. And he does beadwork and creates those sprites. I'm not exactly too sure to what extent he does other stuff, but I've seen a lot of his sprites, and he actually made me a few. He made me one a couple, I want to say a month or two ago, just for the hell of it. He made me that Master Sword. I think I showed it off before. That's the Link to the Past Master Sword from the opening, through the Zelda logo in the opening title screen. And then just recently, because he has not had any. Because he doesn't have a job, I decided to give him a little hand and commission a work for him. So for a decent price, and actually it's worth a lot more than I paid for it, or so he told me when he got done with it. He didn't realize how big it was. I commissioned to him a. Let me make sure I have this right. There we go. A third generation Charizard sprite. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with my channel, I am a big Pokemon fan. I have played every single version except for Crystal because I don't give two flying whatever's about Crystal. I don't give two flying Spearows about Crystal version, but and third generation was always my favorite generation. In particular, Fire Red was my favorite of the third gen, so it's my favorite Pokemon game. And Charizard has always been and always will be my favorite Pokemon, and my favorite sprite was the third generation Charizard sprite. So as you can see, if you look closely, it is beads. He takes beads and he basically puts it down in the corresponding pattern that they need to be in, and then he does an iron to it, so you can kind of see in some areas it's more iron than others, but he irons them down and it looks really nice, really well done. So I commissioned this from him, and he said he was going to do one for my birthday. We'll see if that happens. If he does, I want a Mew from third gen. I just love the third gen sprites so much. But yes, I just wanted to show that off. Took about a minute out of the video to do that. But what am I talking about, or what am I thinking today? This was actually a suggestion from one of you guys, one of my fellow comic book fans, um, my fellow comic book brethrens, and it is from the great Lord Paulie, and this was actually an idea that I was going to do anyways, but because he recommended, I kind of feel like I want to do it now. He basically said, in response to my how I would reboot Marvel, is how would I change the DC relaunch? And that is an interesting question. So what I'm going to do and what I am thinking today is I'm going to do a two-part what I am thinking. Talking about how I would change the relaunch for DC. Part one, which is today, is going to be talking about what titles would I change that are currently around. Part two would be what continuity changes I would do. But we'll deal with part two when I get to it. So basically, the rules for part one are as such. I will take four of the DC Comics titles that are out right now, and I will take them and basically I will pretend I'm canceling them, and in their place I will be putting four new titles. Now the rules of this is that I cannot bring in any more Batman titles. Batman titles are done. We have enough of them. Number two is that I cannot touch any of the comics from the second wave because I have not read the second wave, so I don't know if they're good or not. So I can't be like, buy Dial H for Hero. Can't do that. It has to be from the established 52 that we have right now. So those are the basic rules. Just take four titles. Let me adjust that. Take four titles that I have that I've read, or just in general from the new 52, and then replace them from four titles I think should have been there from the beginning. So, with that said, let's get into the actual list. Okay, First and foremost, I would get rid of, and I will give explanation on why I'm getting rid of stuff and why I'm bringing things in. First and foremost, I would get rid of Dark Knight. Not necessary, doesn't need it. The reason why is because, um, look at it this way. With every Batman title that Bruce is in, there's at least some niche to it, something that draws people in. In Detective, it is more of a down street level kind of detective like comic. No pun intended. Batman is very traditional superhero-esque comic. Batman and Robin is a team-up comic with him and Batman. Even Batman ain't coming out right now in a few weeks, or actually, yeah, just under a month, is going to be a team-up comic with a kind of a pull to it. Dark Knight has nothing. There's no theme. There's no overarching pull to it. People can say that, well, he teams up with a lot of people on it, but nah, not really. And the writing hasn't been really good. It's been the weakest of the Batman titles. There's been one or two issues here and there that have been average, but average at best. So I would get rid of Dark Knight. I think everyone would pretty much agree with me on that. And what I would bring in, the number one comic that I would bring in, is a Cyborg comic. I would love to have a Cyborg comic, and I think I would do a great job writing a Cyborg comic. Cyborg is one of my favorite superheroes, and one, he's a member of the Justice League, so why not have him have a title? Two, I think when you look at DC trying to be diverse with their titles and also being diverse with their comic book characters, uh, in the sake of diversity, Cyborg is in my opinion, the best black comic book character there is. At least in DC Comics, you look at like John Stewart, you look at Black Lightning, you can look at a ton of them in the DCU. There's a few more, but in particular, the one that stands out the most to me is Cyborg. Cyborg, I think, not only that, but he's had such a great character arc. You know, even though a lot of it's been rebooted, he started off the Teen Titans very reluctant, became a team member, found a home, eventually becomes leader of the Teen Titans, and now he's graduated to the position that he's a founding member of the Justice League. And Cyborg just has such a good look and so badass. You know, when I was reading New Teen Titans, out of the new characters that came out, him, Starfire, Changeling, who wasn't really a new character but new to the team, and Raven, Cyborg was always the one that stuck out to me the most, and I really think a comic for him would work out well. But he has a great look, a great power. He brings something to the team. And I think he's one of the best changes to the Justice League for the Justice League comic. So I would really like to see a Cyborg comic, and I would have it be a very traditional superhero comic. I would have him go up against some of the C to B list villains of the DCU and take those villains and make them better. For example, I would take Brother Blood and still have him be a cultist, but I would actually do a similar interpretation to the one that was done in the animated series, ironically. I know it's weird, but I would make Brother Blood be like all about augmenting his body and trying to make himself more demonically closer to the Dark Lord Trigon or whatever. But he augments his body. Make Doctor Light a villain for Cyborg, again a C-list to B-list villain, but make him better and make him more interesting, and he can grow along with Cyborg. And I think Cyborg has so much untapped potential in a single series. So I would bring Cyborg in. Next comic I would get rid of is Red Lanterns. I like the Red Lanterns. Out of the Lantern Corps, they're actually my favorite. Um, just because they're red. Red's my favorite color. But I really do like the concept of Red Lanterns. But the thing about the Lantern Corps, other than Green Lanterns, they're really just there as kind of a gimmicky and for stories. I mean, if you do a team up book like New Guardians, it's fine, but on their own, I don't see the comic being anything miraculous or amazing or stands out. Especially when it comes down to Rage. If Red Lanterns were like the red was the color of vengeance, then it might work a little bit better. But even then, I don't see Red Lanterns being a comic that really, even with fantastic writing, I don't think it would be a comic that would continuously keep getting better and better. I think it's just, I don't think the gimmick is good enough. And that's kind of weird because I say that if you have good writing, then any character in any story can be good. But sometimes there are stories that may not be as good. And I think Red Lanterns will always be overshadowed by the Green Lantern books. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that holds it back. While I do like the concept of Red Lanterns, I'd rather have them over in like New Guardians. So I would get rid of Red Lanterns and I would bring in a team-up book, Outsiders. Now, some of you are probably going to say, well, Andrew, this is kind of a Batman book. True, Outsiders originated as a Batman book, but I would do it more as a team-up book in the DCU. Whether Batman has influence in it is up to you, but I wouldn't put it under the Batman family. Um, and on the team, I would have the following. And most of them would be founding members. I would have, and it's going to hurt me not having one of the members on there. I would have Metamorpho Rex Manson, the Elemental Man, although I don't know if he's in continuity anymore. I think the Elemental Woman replaced him. But let's just pretend he is. Rex Manson, Elemental Man, Black Lightning, I would have Geoforce, I would have Halo, I would have Grace Chow, if you know who she is. She's from the second or third Outsider series, the one with Nightwing and Arsenal in it. She was, I think, the best Outsider that came out of that series. And lastly, to replace Katana, I would have Cassandra Cain, a place to put Cassandra Cain, who's been kind of missing in the DCU lately. And I think it would be a safe place to put her. And I would play off the Outsiders kind of like a Black Ops Justice League, almost like akin to, what is it, X Factor or X Force in comparison to X Men, or is it Dark? I mean, I don't read Marvels, but it would be kind of that black. They would do the stuff that Justice League can't do. It's a Black Ops Justice League, a lot edgier, a lot grittier, and a lot, almost kind of the Suicide Squad, Secret Sixes, only not bad guys. So I would bring in the Outsiders. I think it's a solid name, a solid title, and if you put the right characters on there, it could be a solid team. Next, I would get rid of Legion Lost. Now, I want to clear up a misconception that people have of me and my views on Legion of Superheroes. I do not hate the Legion of Superheroes. I actually like the Legion of Superheroes. I think it's a good idea, and it's definitely a comic that, has a strong fan base. Just not something I'm interested in. Plain, flat, and simple. It's like, I don't care for country music. I'm not saying country music is bad. It's just not what I like listening to. It's just not a comic that I have any interest in reading. But there's one thing that I have to say that is not necessary is another Legion title. Why do we have another Legion title? We already have Legion superheroes. Why do we need Legion Lost? I just think it's an unnecessary title that we could use for bringing in other titles. It's kind of like, why do we need like 4 Batman titles? I think 2 was safe enough, and Robin could just show up in other Batman titles. But you talk about diversity. Why do we have 2 Legion titles? So again, that argument can be used on Superman having Action Comics and Superman, and Batman having 4 Batman titles, but I'm picking on Legion Lost just because I don't think it's as necessary as other titles. Sue me if you want, you're not going to win, because it would be a silly case. But no, you can disagree with me if you want. Maybe Legion Lost is a fantastic title, but I don't think it needs to be around. In place of it, I would bring in a Brave and the Bold title. Some of you may not know this, but I think one of the best titles, concept-wise, to come out of the New 52 is DC Universe Presents, because it brings in a chance to tell stories of characters without having to commit to a series or a miniseries. You do 3 or 4 issues on that, and then you move on. It's a very world-building comic. And I think a team-up comic like Brave and the Bold could do exactly what DC Universe Presents does, only in a team-up fashion. You can see how the Flash and Green Lantern first met. You can see how Batman and Superman do their first case together. You can see the challenges of the unknown working with the Teen Titans, or Voodoo jumping over with Grifter. It's a good place to do team-up comics. I mean, who doesn't love team-ups? There's some team-up comics that shouldn't exist, but who doesn't love a good old-fashioned team-up? I would love to see Sergeant Rock team up with random picking Aquaman. I think that would actually be a cool team up. Or Stephen Trevor and his team teaming up with, I don't know, let's just say Wonder Woman. I mean, that seems natural, but why not Flash? I think it would be a good team up comic to have, and it's one that's absent from the New 52 that I would purchase almost regularly. I don't know if almost regularly, depending on the team ups, but I think it would be a good idea. And lastly, the last comic I would get rid of is Resurrection Man. Why? Well, I do like the concept of Resurrection Man. I was reading the comic. I really didn't care for it. I didn't like the writing. It's probably the only comic on here that had a good concept that I just didn't care for the writing. I read up to issue 7, I think, and I was like, there was some good stuff, but there was some bad too. I have not much more of an explanation than that, other than the fact I just didn't like it. I'm being very blunt, personal, and biased towards that. But what I would bring in is a Fourth World book. But I would have some rules for the Fourth World book. I like the Fourth World. I like New Genesis and Apocalypse, and I like the Jack Kirby-esque feel to it with the designs of costumes and just the overwhelming sense of adventure that can come from it. My number one rule for the Fourth World is it can't really touch the current DCU. You can have a little bit of a crossover, or you can say it's in the DCU, but it shouldn't go to Earth. It shouldn't cross over with Superman or Batman or the Justice League or anything. It should be in its own little universe. It should do its own little thing, and I think that's where Fourth World thrives the best, is when it doesn't bleed over into the new DCU. Obviously, you're going to have that a little bit with Darkseid showing up from time to time, but still, I think it would be best if the Fourth World was kind of doing their own thing, a billion light years away, over in Alpha Centauri or in another galaxy or whatever. But I would love to see a Fourth World book. It would be fun. It would be really fun. And you know what? I would be so bold to see if you can get Alex Ross on there as artist, because some people like Alex Ross, some people that don't. A lot of people say that he's better at covers because his drawings are very picturesque, but I do think there's some times when Alex Ross's drawings work very well for a comic. A great example is Kingdom Come, where it had that very old-fashioned sense to it, almost like 50s, 40s kind of feel to it, but it was very much still new and fresh, and it worked for the comic. And I think it would work well for a Fourth World book. Oh God, let's look at it. Grant Morrison and Alex Ross on the Fourth World. I should probably pick writers for these books too. Um, Brave and the Bold, you can have anyone. A rotating cast of writers and artists. Fourth World, Alex Ross and Grant Morrison, I think would be a good pick for that. I that just kind of came to me. Cyborg is a little bit tougher because when it comes down to Cyborg, you need someone that definitely knows the character and how to run with the character. Obvious picks would be like, George Perez, Marv Wolfman, those two writing it. Or you can have, Jeff Johns has a pretty solid grasp on Cyborg, the character. So those as writers. When it comes down to artists, I think Ed Benz would be a good pick. Throw him on there as artist. As for the outsiders, that is another tough one to do, and I might get flagged with a lot of hate for this, but Judd Winnick in his beginning run on The Outsiders, back when he restarted it, was actually pretty good with his writing on it. So I think Judd Winnick might be okay if you had someone guiding him and holding his hand, and that would be Chuck Dixon. So I think a writing team of Chuck Dixon and uh, yeah, Chuck Dixon and Judd Winnick, and then an artist, the artistry you can almost go with anyone, but with a darker feel to it. I don't have an artist necessarily that stands out in my head to do the Outsiders, but I think Chuck Dixon and Judd Winnick, Judd doing the dialogue and Chuck doing the stories would be good. Um, because I love Chuck Dixon to death. He was like the king of the 90s when it came down to Batman. But the only problem that I've had with Chuck Dixon is I feel as though some of his comics has felt dated a bit when it comes down to his writing. So I think Judd Winnick would bring that freshness when it comes down to overall dialogue, and Chuck Dixon would bring the structure that is needed. Not that Judd Winnick needs structure in his comics, but I think they would just be a good team that would mesh well. And surprisingly enough, I would not have anyone write with Grant Morrison. I just let Grant Morrison go crazy there and do his own thing. But yeah, those are my picks of what I would change with the comic selection. Um, Sometime this coming week, hopefully maybe Sunday or Monday, I will do the next What I Am Thinking, which is going to be part two to this. And basically, I will talk about continuity changes. What things when it comes down to the New 52, I've liked a lot of what they've done, but there's some changes that I absolutely do not like. So I will talk about what continuity changes I would have done differently. But as always, I would like to hear your opinions on this subject. What comics would you change? What comics would you add? Of course, within the rules that I put down. You can comment, or you can video respond, or you can do whatever. You can be old fashioned and just telegram me. Hey, why not? I'm not going to pick it up because I don't have a telegram, but hey, you can try. Uh, so yeah, that's what I am thinking. I would like to hear what you are thinking. And I'm going to end this video here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.